All right, we have already talked about how to add and subtract fractions, and so I just want to remind you very quickly about adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators and unlike denominators. Again, a video similar to this was already posted, and so I just want to remind you when we are adding and subtracting fractions, adding and subtracting, that it is really easy with like fractions. These are fractions that have the same denominator already. And we can very easily just add or subtract by putting the numbers on the line with the denominator. Remember that the denominator is a label, tells us what we're working with. So when our label is, let's say, let's go with eighths this time. If we have 7/8 minus 4/8, because we are dealing with two numbers that have eighths, we can just go ahead and put 7 minus 4 on one line over 8. 7 minus 4 is going to be 3. Our denominator is going to be 8/3. This specific fraction is in the simplest form because the greatest common factor between these two numbers is 1. Therefore, we cannot simplify any further. It's the same thing if we were adding fractions. So let's say we had 6/18 plus 5/18. All we would do is we would put 6 plus 5 on the line because we are adding apples to apples or oranges to oranges. We don't need to change the denominator. Sorry, that should be 18ths. And so that gives us 11/18. Again, we can't simplify because the greatest common factor between 11 and 18 is 1. I know it seems like I'm going through this very quickly, but the reason I'm going through this very quickly is because we've already looked at adding fractions, and the way that we add fractions and subtract fractions is actually pretty much the same. So we want to make sure that we're hitting all of the important pieces, but we also have already kind of gone over this, so it should be a little bit of a review for you, and hopefully it's kind of sticking. So we're going to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. Now, we can look at adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. So unlike fractions have different denominators. So when we come across a fraction like 5/7 minus, let's do 3/56. This is where we have to find the least common denominator between the two numbers. The way that we do that is we start by listing the multiples. So the multiples of 7 are 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, and 56. Multiples for 56 are 56, 112. We don't really need to go any further because we have a least common denominator here. Our least common denominator, or LCD, is going to be equal to 56. So what do we have to do to get our 7 to 56? We have to multiply by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because 56 is the 8th multiple. Whatever we do to the bottom half, we have to do to the top. So whatever we do to the bottom of our fraction, we have to do to the top of our fraction. So if we're going to multiply 7 times 8, we also have to multiply 5 times 8. 5 times 8 is 40, and 7 times 8 is 56. Because 3/56 already has 56 as a denominator, we don't have to do anything with it because all we'd have to do is multiply by 1, and that doesn't help us at all. So now we take our fractions with our least common denominators, 40 56ths, and we subtract 3 56ths. 40 minus 3 is 37, and 56 just goes back in place. Okay, remember it's the same as this. I didn't include the step. It's the same as 40 minus 3 over 56. Sorry about that I kind of put that out of order. So it equals 37 56ths. Well, here's a cool thing about 37. So 37 cannot be divided by anything other than 1 or 37. It is a prime number. Therefore, this fraction is in its simplest form. And we will talk more about prime numbers and prime factorization and all that good stuff a little bit later on. But I do want you to hear that a prime number is a number whose only factors are 1 and itself. A prime number, because you will hear this again, a prime number is a number whose only factors are 1 and itself. We could divide 56 by a whole lot of things, but we can't divide 37 by a whole lot of things. All right, so remember, in unlike fractions, you're going to find the least common denominator. You're going to create equivalent fractions with the least common denominator. You're going to perform your addition or your subtraction, and you're going to simplify if needed. If you have questions, you know where to find me.